Thank you for tuning in to the Veterinary Cannabis Society's YouTube channel. Our mission is to create lasting solutions that ensure the safe use of cannabis with pets through education, advocacy, and promoting product standards. To support that mission, we invited Jennifer Whetzel to lead a presentation about FDA-compliant marketing for cannabis-based pet products. Jennifer is a renowned brand strategist whose incredible resume includes a Clio Award for her study of women in cannabis. She's worked with cannabis, medical, and veterinary brands. Today, you'll hear an abridged version of the original workshop. We've cut out the interactive sections like the Q&A portion and just delivered the meat and bones of the workshop. Visit the Veterinary Cannabis Society and sign up for our newsletter so that you'll be notified of future workshops like this, and you'll be able to participate live with all of the sections. We would love for you to attend the next one. You can find contact information for Jennifer and the Veterinary Cannabis Society in the description below. And now, to the podcast.
Okay, so we'll be kicking things off with the basics, the rules, regulations, and risks involved in marketing pet products with CBD or hemp or THC ingredients. So we'll look at the specific rules and regulating bodies in the US to understand what's allowed and what's off limits. So we'll learn about the common pitfalls to avoid and the real risks from fines to product seizures if you're not compliant. To give you a real world example, we will review an actual FDA warning letter, and we'll break down what triggered the letter and what went wrong in their messaging. And this will show you exactly what catches the FDA's attention. We'll take a closer look at health claims. This section will be key as it covers what you can and can't say about your products. I'll show you examples of what are problem claims and why even, well-meaning words can lead to non-compliance. And I'll give you clear, actionable guidelines for safe language to use and the words you need to avoid. So then we'll learn how to write health claims that are compliant but still effective. I'll give you a few templates and formulas to create structure and function claims that meet FDA standards. And that'll be your toolkit for communicating your product's benefits. And then I'll introduce you to some safer alternative messaging options. So instead of focusing directly on health claims, we'll look at ways to emphasize the emotions and values behind your brand to help create a connection with your customers without risking non-compliance. And then after we've covered all this, it'll be your turn. I have some worksheets ready for you to put everything into practice, and we can write some sample claims for your own products. So this will be hands-on so that you can get comfortable using these templates. And then I'll be here to answer questions and provide feedback as you work. And then after we wrap up, there'll be time for Q&A, and I'll be able to answer as many questions as I have. I would encourage you to put your questions in the chat and hold them until then. Otherwise, I get really distracted. ADHD, squirrel problems. So my goal today is to make sure you walk away confident and equipped to create compliant and effective messaging. Just a reminder before we get started, while I'm not a lawyer, I am a marketer with lots of years of experience working directly within these regulations. My focus is on helping you work with the regulations, not against them. And so I know how limiting the language can feel, but I spent years finding ways to make these marketing messages both effective and legally sound. And today we're going to go over the things that I learned. I want to share a little bit of my background with you, how I got involved in both animal health and cannabis, which are weird things that go together, but don't. So I'll work backwards and start with my cannabis experience. In 2018, after about 25 years in corporate marketing and advertising, I pivoted to cannabis and became a serial entrepreneur. First, I started Ladyjane Branding, an agency to help make branding simple for entrepreneurs and startups in cannabis. And some of the work that I did there is going to inform what you're going to learn today. In 2019, I performed a very large research study on the experiences of women working in cannabis, and I surveyed over 1,500 women about a bunch of different topics. And I published the results in 2022 and won a Clio Cannabis Award for advocacy. And then in 2020, just before the pandemic began, my partner and I started a business called Independent Diamond Brokers, where we launched services for retailers and growers in our local market. And one of those was the growers marketplace, where we hosted 30 in-person events over 4 years and connected over 500 businesses. And since that wasn't enough to keep me busy, I also spent a year on a committee for the National Cannabis Industry Association, and I served on the board for a nonprofit, This Is Jane Project, which is focused on providing support and access to medical survivors. All right, so prior to cannabis, in my corporate background, I have a lot of weird animal health background. I started out in retail merchandising. I spent a little bit of time on a military base. But then once I started working for a full service advertising agency, I started having clients that were involved with animals, so dairy clients and meat clients. But also I had animal pharmaceuticals when I was doing this. And that's just a very, very different kind of thing than what we're talking about here. I moved on to a research agency where one of my clients was they were in animal health, and they had this active ingredient for production animals. And they hired us to figure out a product for companion animals. And then they hired me away to launch those products. And that's where I learned how to do all of this messaging. After that, I moved on to an experiential marketing agency in Maine, and that's where I am now. So here's the weird thing with animal health drugs. You think the messaging for supplements is difficult. Like, really, this is next level stuff. You're extremely limited in what you can say about drugs. You can only make health claims about the studies that you submit in the new drug application process. So for ulcer products, it's pretty easy. The studies say they prevent and treat ulcers. So that's what you can say in your messaging. But this is really interesting. So Equiox was a new anti-inflammatory for horses, but the studies they submitted were about pain and inflammation associated with osteoarthritis. That's all you can say. So we had to find other claims, like more safety data. And I don't know if you can see the references. Every single word we said needed a reference. And then for an anti-parasitic treatment, the messaging here was about the bottom line. It wasn't a health claim. So it's difficult even when you have a drug product to make good health claims. My experience with animal supplements is with a bioactive protein made from spray-dried bovine plasma, which is sold as an ingredient in colostrum supplements and replacers for production animals. And so they focus mostly on wholesale feed and supplements, but they wanted to diversify into the consumer space with a product for horses. Now, they had significant peer-reviewed research on the benefits of this active ingredient, particularly for production animals. But since it's a supplement, we couldn't talk about any of these benefits, even though we had the research. So as we go through the presentation, I will come back to these products to show you the messaging we developed with the help of the National Animal Supplement Council. One thing I learned when working with drugs and supplements is that the internal legal teams really feel like the sales prevention department. You know, you take them a message and you say, "Can I say this?" And they say, "No, come back in 2 weeks with something else." They won't tell you what you can say. They just tell you what you can't say. And the reason for that is because if a company gets a letter from the FDA, often it's the lawyers who get fired first. So they're acting in their own best interest. It's their job to protect themselves and their employers from non-compliant language. Okay, so next we're going to get into the rules and regulations so that I can help you avoid a letter. All right, there's a lot on this slide, but this is just a quick overview. We will go through each one of these regulations one by one. And while it may be legal in the state where you live or even the country where you are, federally in the US, the rules prohibit all advertising or sale of cannabis and CBD. Hemp is a little different. It's federally legal. Some might say it's accidentally federally legal, and some states are trying to outlaw it even. But what's important is that you familiarize yourself with these rules and the risks involved so that you don't accidentally make claims that get flagged by the federal regulators. All right, let's start with the Controlled Substances Act. As we all know, cannabis is still considered a controlled substance. And this means it falls under the Controlled Substances Act, which forbids advertising in any manner. So as long as cannabis remains on the controlled substances list anywhere, the act prohibits any advertising related to selling this controlled substance. Typically in marketing, you talk about product and price and promotion and place. These are the 4 Ps. And in any other industry, this is typically how you start advertising. But you can't do that here. You can't talk about what the product does or how much it is or whether it's on sale or where you can buy it, because you can't do that with controlled substances. Now, violating this technically is a felony punishable with prison. I haven't seen anybody go to jail for doing this, but this is the reason why social media accounts get shut down. They don't want to go to jail either. All right. Next up is the Federal Trade Commission's Truth in Advertising Act. It's a mouthful. This one is all about ensuring that every claim you make is backed by solid research. And what do they consider to be solid research? Double-blind, placebo-controlled studies, or peer-reviewed journal articles. But I need to be clear, this one's not about health claims. We're talking about any other type of claim here, like 4 out of 5 dentists recommend Trident gum for their patients who chew gum. You need proof. And without that, your company could face significant penalties. And the example I have on the slide, a bunch of years ago, Volkswagen got in trouble with the FTC. They were found to make false claims about their cars that were low emission and environmentally friendly, and they sold over 500,000 cars. And then the FTC sued them for about $15 billion with a B. So, and also very interesting, this is new to me, but they're starting to look at claims about AI. So, they've got their eye on stuff. So it's going to be important to be careful. Okay. Now let's look at the FDA. They say their role is to protect public health by ensuring the safety and effectiveness of drugs, both for human and animals. And the FDA still says that CBD and cannabis is not safe for human or animals, even though we know that's not the case. Thing is that the other thing I think they really want to do is protect the big pharma companies who have spent billions of dollars on clinical studies to develop drugs. And as we know, CBD is in an approved drug. THC is in an approved drug. And what that means is that once an ingredient is a drug, you can't put it into a food and you can't put it into a supplement. So even if cannabis and CBD are removed from the substances list, it will still be federally illegal to put those ingredients into food or supplements for humans or animals because they're already in drugs. And since it takes about 10 years and billions of dollars to submit a new drug application, products containing CBD or cannabis will probably remain technically illegal. Okay. The Federal Drug and Cosmetics Act of 1938 is the one that gives the FDA the power to regulate food, drugs, and cosmetics. And this one is all about safety. It was passed in 1937 it was passed in response to a mass poisoning event in 1937 where an untested antibiotic containing a toxin killed more than 100 people in 15 states. So under the regulations at the time, drug manufacturers were not required to submit evidence of safety or efficacy of drugs before marketing them to the general public. And this is how that turned out. Now, under the FD&C Act, your products can't be adulterated or misbranded. Now, adulteration just means that the product has been, quote, contaminated with an unapproved ingredient, CBD, THC, hemp. And misbranding just means that the product's labeling doesn't follow the rules. And then the way they get you is if your product is sold across state lines. Once you do that, you are in violation. Okay, next up, the Dietary Supplement Health and Education Act, otherwise known as DSHEA. DSHEA established guidelines for dietary supplements, But as we've already seen a couple of times, cannabis and CBD are ingredients in pharmaceutical drugs. And you can't put active drug ingredients into supplements. Now, interestingly, animal products aren't covered by DSHEA. There aren't actually any rules for animal supplements. And so any type of supplement or pet food intended to treat or prevent health issues for animals are considered to be, quote, illegal drugs of low regulatory concern. Now, if you add CBD or cannabis or hemp, a regulatory agency might consider those products to be illegal drugs of high regulatory concern. And God forbid there's a mass poisoning event of pets because of a product that's contaminated with CBD or hemp or cannabis. Then I'm afraid regulators will really start coming after these products as illegal drugs of very high regulatory concern. All right, finally, we have AFCO, or the American Association of Feed Control Regulators. Now, this is a voluntary association of state and local and federal feed control officials, and they work closely with the FDA. And while they don't really have any regulatory authority, they do work to help ensure a safe feed supply for animals. And when I read through all the enforcement letters from the FDA, there's often a list of agencies involved in the investigation, and AFCO is often listed, so they are involved. And for the most part, they consider hemp and CBD and THC to be prohibited. Now, I know this year they did vote and approve hemp seed meal for laying hens as a tentative ingredient definition, uh, but that's about as far as they've gone so far with hemp. Okay, the National Animal Supplement Council, that A is for animal, Emily. And this industry group was started to help pet product companies. So remember when I said there were no rules for animal supplements? Because of the lack of regulatory clarity, the NASC collaborated with the FDA to develop a framework similar to what's used for human supplements. And this framework has become a roadmap to help companies maintain compliance. Member companies who join and follow the framework are given a seal of approval from the NASC. And I worked closely with them for a few years, and they were instrumental in helping us compose safer health claims. And I learned a lot from them. Okay, now that we understand the rules, let's talk about the risks and penalties for breaking the rules. Because let me go back. I just want to say, there are companies who are 100% in compliance. There are companies who break the rules because they don't understand the rules. There are some companies out there who break all the rules, sometimes on purpose, because sometimes the rules are stupid. But the important thing is to know which one you are. I want you to know the risks and then choose your path forward. If you have $1 billion company, or maybe a small startup with a whole lot to lose, don't break the rules at all. If you have an appetite for risk, if you have money to spend on lawyers, if you're interested in disrupting the system, break the rules. But do it in a smart way. Don't be a bad actor. Don't mislead consumers. And please don't harm any pets because that screws it up for everybody. All right. So I think this is really important. I've read all the FDA non-compliance letters for pet products, and here are the things that I think are most likely to make a company a target for action. If you sell products for humans and you're breaking the rules, your pet products will be included in the non-compliance letter. I'm not sure they go after pet products first. It's human ones. If your marketing appeals to children and your products appeal to children, very high risk. If you're making egregious health claims about your human products, high risk. And this is important. Even your customer reviews can get you into trouble. If products for production animals can be high risk. Nutrition claims, this is something that also can get you into trouble. And then it's shipping products to other states. You are absolutely breaking the rules if you're selling CBD and hemp and THC and shipping it across state lines. Sometimes all these things are legal within your home state, but it's the shipping across state lines that is a big problem. All right, penalties can range from a non-compliance letter to monetary fines and jail time. Again, I haven't seen anybody with jail time. But for the most part, if you get a letter from the FDA and you respond in a timely manner, I think it's 15 days, and you fix the problems, you probably won't be subjected to any harsher penalties. But if you don't respond, things can escalate. Violating regulations can cost $1,000 to $1 million per violation. And this is hard to take, but the penalties can be applied both to companies and to individuals. So just be careful. This is why the sales prevention or legal department, this is why they're so strict. They're trying to protect their bosses and themselves from the penalties, and they're trying to keep their jobs. All right, in the last 5 years, there have been 36 warning letters for companies selling pet products. And there have been penalties assessed, ranging from $20,000 to $85,000. So just know that enforcement does happen, and it's really important to be careful. Okay, let's take a look at a warning letter. In 2022, the company CBD American Shaman received a warning letter from the FDA. Now, in the introduction of the letter, it states, and I'm paraphrasing here a little bit, the FDA has reviewed your website and has determined that you take orders there from human and animal products, which you promote as products containing CBD. We also reviewed your social media accounts, which link to your website where consumers purchase your product. Then the letter goes on to say, we're particularly concerned that some of your products are in forms that are appealing to children. That's a problem. And I'm not paraphrasing here when they say the use of untested drugs can have unpredictable and unintended consequences, especially in vulnerable populations such as children. For example, children may be at greater risk for adverse reactions associated with certain drug products due to differences in the ability of children to absorb, metabolize, distribute, or excrete such drug products or the metabolites. So I think this is what triggered the letter. The company selling products that are appealing to children. And once you're in the FDA's sites, they look at everything. So the introduction of the letter goes on to list all the products that are in violation, like their CBD hard candies and their CBD sparkling tea and CBD coffee, CBD doggy chews and horsey chews and hemp doggy nugs and hemp kitty nugs. And then after the summary of all the products, they break the letter down into sections highlighting each of the different types of violations. The first few are for humans, and that's typical. That's typically why they got the letter in the first place. But since they also sell products for pets, all of those were included too. And then their labeling got them into trouble. So for adulterated human foods, remember, it's illegal to put CBD into food. They put CBD into food, so it's considered adulterated. That's a hard word. What they say they're concerned about is consumers who might unintentionally take too much because they're confused. I know we're smarter than that, but they may be confused and not understand how much is in their food. Okay. Unapproved new human drug. So they put CBD into a sunscreen. And here's the thing, just the word sunscreen is a health claim. Sunscreens prevent disease. You don't even have to make a health claim. Just calling it a sunscreen is enough to be a problem. And that makes it a drug. And then since it's considered a drug, it's misbranded because the labeling is illegal. And since they sold the product online and shipped it out of state, they placed the product into interstate commerce, getting them into trouble. So since they also sell animal products and they make health claims there too, those are considered to be unapproved drugs. But what I wanted to show you is some of the claims that were listed in the letter. And these are all direct quotes. I'm not paraphrasing here. But the FDA is calling out stress, panic, regulating blood pressure, arthritis. And there's more. Okay. Seizures, cancer, alternative medication, treats symptoms. All of these things are issues that they called out specifically. Now, since the products they sold for animals include CBD, just like for the human ones, they are considered adulterated. And since they sold them out of state, they're in violation. Since they're animal foods, the pet food included CBD, they are also considered adulterated. Let's look at why these were considered food. Well, they called them food. They called them treat and food. And when you do that, you're telling the FDA to classify your product as a food. And since it has CBD in it, it's an illegal food. So you're highlighting that you're selling an illegal product. All right, dietary supplement. Just the terminology of dietary supplement is problematic. CBD can't be in a supplement because it's in a drug, and it can't be a dietary anything. So if you use these words on your labeling, you're alerting the FDA that you're non-compliant. All right, so then what happened? They got the letter, and the letter stated that they fixed the problems. There weren't a whole lot of follow-ups in terms of what happened next, but the company got in trouble again. They were already on the radar, and this time they got hit with penalties. This time they sold a hand sanitizer during COVID without registering their products properly. So they got hit with pretty substantial penalties. Okay, let's do a quick review of the rules. What's currently allowed for hemp and CBD and THC for pet products? Yeah, pretty much nothing. For the most part, if you're adding hemp or CBD or THC to any animal product, whether it's for companion or production animals, food, treats, feed, you are in violation of current federal regulations. It's important to know that the rules differ based on the type of products you're selling. Food and treats have different rules for supplements. And for production animals, in some cases, the state regulations for hemp additives might be more relaxed, hopefully. Okay, I want to talk about the language that you use for your products, whether it's on the label or your website or in marketing materials. Typically, you choose the language based on whether the product is meant to be a daily complete food or a supplement. Food and feed products use language associated with food and feeding and diet and energy and nutrition. But here's where it gets tricky. You can't put CBD or hemp into a food or a feed. So if you use these words associated with feeding, you're telling the FDA that you're selling an illegal product. And for supplements, you typically use the word administer or dose or supplement. But CBD and hemp can't be used in supplements. So if you use the word supplement, you're also telling the FDA that you're selling an illegal product. It's a little bit of a conundrum. For a typical pet food, your label would include a guaranteed analysis and an ingredient statement with everything listed in weight order. If you add CBD or hemp to that pet food and you follow these labeling requirements for a food, you're telling the FDA you're selling an illegal product. And again, for supplements, you would list active ingredients and inactive ingredients in alphabetical order. But if you do that, you're telling the FDA you're selling an illegal product. So what do you do? Well, the answer is it depends. It's all about risk. What are you selling? Are you also selling human products? Are you making claims about your human products? Are you shipping out of state? Is everything else in compliance? What's your risk appetite? Honestly, in a local market, it's fine to do all these things. It's shipping across state lines that puts you in non-compliance a lot more. Okay. All right, let's talk about health claims. Let's define a health claim. This is a definition from the FDA. A health claim is anything that you say that ties your product to reducing the risk of a disease or a health related condition. And that's prohibited for any food or supplement, any at all, not just those that contain CBD or hemp. Here are the 3 key things to watch out for. Any words that signify or reference diseases, symptoms of diseases, drugs or comparison to drugs. If you're doing any of these things in writing in any of your marketing or advertising, you're open to action from the FDA. Now, I will give you a specific example of these in the next few slides so that we're clear. But I want to point out that these definitions say overt or implied. And that means that even if you don't explicitly state a disease or symptom, the context can imply one. So the bottom line here is, like, don't try to get cute with your language. The FDA isn't just looking at what you say outright. They're looking at what you imply with the context. So be really careful. All right, what's a disease? The FDA regulations spell this out. A disease is damage to an organ, part, structure, or system of the body, such that it does not function properly, or a state of health leading to such dysfunctioning, except nutritional deficiencies like scurvy. They're really specific about the disease claims here. They give 10 criteria for determining whether a claim is a disease claim. So are you using actual disease names like cancer or arthritis? Are you implying that the product can act on typical signs and symptoms of a disease? Are you implying that your product works for abnormal or non-typical conditions that are tied to normal and natural processes like aging? Are you using a name or recognizable symbol like a heart or an RX symbol that hints at disease prevention or treatment? And are you using words that typically are associated with drugs that treat disease, like antibiotic or antiviral? There's more. Are you suggesting your product could replace a drug or a known therapy, or say it has fewer side effects? Are you saying your product works alongside a therapy or a drug that treats disease? Are you claiming your product helps the body fight disease or boosts disease fighting functions? Are you mentioning that your product addresses the side effects of disease treatments, like reduces nausea associated with cancer treatment? And then this one is my favorite. It's kind of like the thing you put at the end of a job description. It's a catch-all at the end. Other disease implications. Basically, if there's any other wording or context that could imply your product affects disease, even if it's not explicitly covered by these rules, you're still treading into risky territory. All right, so let me first show you the words to avoid. They are very clear, the rules. These words are expressly prohibited. So if your product claims are all about fixing problems and you're using these words, again, even in customer product reviews, you're making yourself a target for the FDA. All right, here are some examples of disease terms, and this list is not exhaustive. If you're mentioning a disease word anywhere in your marketing materials, even in your customer reviews, you're making yourself a target for the FDA. Can't talk about symptoms either. Symptoms are often associated with specific diseases, and using these terms can suggest your product is intended to treat a medical condition. And even suggesting or implying that your product can help, you're making yourself a target for the FDA. if you're using words that are typically used to describe any kind of pharmaceutical drug, like anti-tumor, antifungal, antiviral, you're making yourself a target. All right, so these words are red flags. They're not specifically prohibited, but you have to be careful with them. They can imply disease claims. So they might suggest that your product is treating or curing a condition. Even words like boost or enhance can be a problem. And the word inflammation is almost always linked to medical conditions. So any claim about reducing or managing inflammation can be a red flag. Now it's possible to use it, but you have to be really, really careful, and it requires specific messaging. I'll show you some examples later. Okay, so what's left? What can you say? The only health claims that are expressly permissible are structure function claims. If you were to take a walk down the supplement aisle of the drugstore for humans, you would see lots of examples of structure function claims. These are all about supporting and maintaining a normal, healthy body. Let me show you some examples of structures and functions. Similar for pets than they are for humans, body structures and what those structures do. Coat and fur got to be careful with that one. That is not a supplement claim. That's a feed claim. Just wanted to point that out. Okay. So the rules also state that you need to have substantiation of any claim that you're making. But for any of these structure function claims you make, you need to submit documentation, and you need to submit it in writing to the FDA. The rules also state that you need disclaimers on your product. But here's one thing I want to make sure you know. The disclaimers will not save you from a non-compliance letter if you're breaking the rules. Can't just slap on a disclaimer and call it good. You should have it, but you got to follow the other rules too. Okay, we're going to do the fun part now. I'm going to show you how to write health claims. So there's two types of claims that we can make that are health related. The first is structure function, and that's the one that is allowed. And then we'll try some moderately risky but safer health claims. I have broken this down for you into a very easy to use formula. Now, don't worry, there's no math. It's more like Mad Libs if you are old enough to remember that. And the formula for writing structure function claims is a modifier, a verb, another modifier for good measure, and a structure or a function. So let's take a look at what this looks like. May help, got a modifier. Your verb is support. Your extra modifier is optimal. And then you've got your function, joint mobility. Pretty simple. Doesn't say too much, but this is a structure function claim. Here's another one that's a little longer. Don't get scared by all the red, but helps your modifier, promote your verb, your structure is all in red, and then your extra modifier is in green there. Helps promote musculoskeletal system health. And just in case people don't know what musculoskeletal is, not you, I mean your customers, tendons, ligaments, bones, joints, and muscles. And now we're going to move on to safer health claims because these are a little bit more fun and a little bit more complicated. Because honestly, structure function claims are kind of vague and a little boring. So let's see what else we can do. Okay. The formula for this one, you've got a modifier, a verb, an issue, not a health problem. We're just going to call it an issue. You have a connector, an extra modifier, and then a situation. And I call it situation because this is not a problem. This is something that happens to normal bodies, normal healthy bodies, aging, exercise, stress. I'm sure there's more things that could go here. Like in humans, menopause is a situation. It's not a disease. It's just a thing that happens. So if you want to talk about how your product helps with an issue, that a pet might be having, you need to surround the issue with modifiers and connectors that reference normal, healthy situations. All right, let's see what that looks like. Got a modifier, a verb, an issue, a connector, another modifier, and a situation. So helps aid soreness associated with regular exercise. We get sore when we exercise. It's typical, normal, healthy. Helps support normal recovery from occasional stress. Connector, verb, I'm sorry, modifier, verb, modifier, connector, modifier, issue. Recovery from, I would say, is a little bit tricky. That's a use caution. Okay, now I'm going to show you, I want to revisit the products I worked on when I was VP of marketing for an animal health company. So I can show you how I used these formulas to help develop messaging that was as strong as humanly possible. Well, as strong as lawyerly possible. These were the only things that the lawyers would let us say so that we could have strong claims without having an FDA letter. Now, remember, the active ingredient that we have to work with is a proven anti-inflammatory. And we have studies that show that this works in all of the target species, not even, but we couldn't say any of these things. So let's see what we did instead. All right, we'll start with supports and maintains a healthy stomach and intestinal tract. Now you'll notice I'm not using the full, not necessarily using all of the full formulas in these examples. I'm kind of mixing it up a little bit, but these still worked. Let me show you another one. Offsets breathing and respiratory issues related to regular exercise. So yeah, we breathe heavily when we exercise regularly. We pets, whatever. This was for horses. And we actually tested this in performance horses. We did a study with, I can't remember what the name of a drill team is that has horses on it, but it was a drill team that has horses on it. And we tested it. They went through a lot of exercise every day. It wasn't normal, regular exercise. It was like athletic stuff. But this is how we could call attention to what we could do for this body system. All right, remember I said inflammation is a tricky one? So we said here, acts on the immune and inflammatory systems. We didn't say what it does. We just used the word. We said that it provides multi-systemic benefits within 14 days, which we could prove, and we had proof, and we submitted the proof. But we didn't say what those benefits were. So it's vague, but we got those words on the label. So we used the word improve. This was hard. We said is clinically proven to improve stride length and range of motion. So we had the proof, but we added in those modifiers and normal issue stuff. So it does that by easing occasional soreness from exercise. If your muscles don't hurt, you can have a better stride length and range of motion. So we weren't talking about a problem. We were just talking about a thing that happens to animals that exercise. And that worked. And then we were able, so, we can't submit for a drug. This isn't ever going to be a drug, but we can say that it's well researched and it's proven and talk about the vast amount of research that this product has. But we didn't say what it does here. We're just saying that it's proven to do things effectively. What things? I don't know. But this works. And this was the label. This was the product label that we put out there. It's got the NASC seal, where we were able to talk about how quickly you can have results, talking about how it's proven, and that it works to support structures and functions. And we did not get a letter from the FDA. Okay, so that's how you make claims that have words that are related to health and issues and problems in pets. I did give you a worksheet and we will get to that. But first, what I want to talk about is safe messaging options. What are the things that you can say anytime? All right, this is where my branding and marketing experience comes into play. Here's where we're going to talk about messaging that focuses on features and benefits and building emotional connections with your customers. So there's there's three types of messages here. Features are basic facts about your product. What's in it? It's the what of your product. Benefits explain why those features matter. So think about it in terms of how your product helps the pet owner. Benefits answer the question, what's in it for me, the consumer? Now, emotional messages are next level. The emotional hook that makes a customer feel something. You want to connect with people on a personal level because this connection tells the customer, this product makes me feel good about my choices. All right, we'll go through each one of them individually, but let's start with features. Features, as I mentioned, facts. Concrete attributes that differentiate, that's a big word, your product from others in the market. And there are three types of features that we could talk about here. The first one is just simply what's in it. Is it made with natural ingredients? Is it organic? Is it free from things? This is where you just talk about what the product is. And some examples: made with human grade ingredients, free from artificial colors, flavors, preservatives. Just a fact, it's an easy one. The next type of features would be, how's it made? How's it packaged? And this is where you highlight your product's quality assurance process, sustainable packaging, responsible sourcing, those types of things. Let's look at examples of these. Each ingredient is held to the same strict standards as pharmaceutical products. Yes, that's a fact. That's an easy one. Custom formulated by our team of veterinary professionals. Just a fact. Easy. 100% recyclable, eco-friendly packaging. One thing I want to say here, just be careful with greenwashing. Make sure that the claims that you are saying are true and can be proven if necessary. But if this is true, this is a fact, and that's easy. We partner with responsible suppliers who meet ethical standards in animal welfare and environmental stewardship. Again, make sure you can prove that, but this is a good one. It's a fact. Our product meets stringent industry certifications for safety, quality, environmental responsibility. Again, a fact. All right, so the third type of features are brand focused. Selling your brand is just important as selling the benefits of your product, maybe even more so, because building your brand is about creating a relationship with customers. So one where they feel confident and connected to your brand every time they make a purchase. Think about, why should your customers trust your brand over anyone else's? All right, let's look at some examples. Our customer support team is ready to help with personalized advice and answers. Proud supporters of local shelters and rescue events. Innovating pet health with science-backed ingredients. These are all things you can say that are about your brand and not about health claims. Okay, next up is benefits. This is where we take all those features we just covered and translate them into something that really matters to your customer. So features talk about what the product is, but benefits answer a bigger question. What's in it for me or my pet? So how do you get to the benefit? You might want to ask yourself, what does the customer get from this? Maybe your product's features high quality ingredients. So the benefit is that your pet gets a safe premium product that you can trust. Maybe one of your features is an innovative formula designed for joint health, and then the benefit is a more active, comfortable life for your pet and a happier pet owner. Benefits make your product relatable. This is where your customers start to picture your product fitting into their daily life, making things easier, better, safer, whatever, for both your customer and their pet. So it's not just a product, it's a solution. They're not just buying a pet food or a treat, they're buying peace of mind, knowing that they're giving their pet the best care possible. Now, the clearer that you make the benefits, the more that your customers will be able to see the value in what you're offering. Features might spark interest, but it's benefits that help close the deal. Let's look at some examples here. Unbeatable value, high quality pet care products that won't break the bank. Count on our product to deliver dependable results, keeping your pet happy and healthy day after day. Easy to open, easy to store, and easy to use for a smoother experience. Trust us to be there every step of the way with a team ready to support you and your pet. So these are all things that your customers need. All right, finally, we get to the most powerful part, and that is emotions. And this is where you connect with your customers on a really deep level. Because let's be honest, people don't just buy products, they buy feelings. And when a customer chooses your product, they're not just investing in their pet's health, they're investing in the feeling of being a responsible, caring pet parent. Your customers want to feel good about themselves. So think about the emotions tied to your product. Maybe it's peace of mind, knowing they're giving their pet safe, high quality care. Maybe it's pride, the kind of satisfaction that comes from making thoughtful and informed choices for their furry family member. Maybe even a sense of relief, especially if your product helps them manage something challenging like keeping their fur baby calm during a thunderstorm. So when you frame your messaging around feelings, you're speaking to what really matters to the customer. They're not just buying a treat, they're buying the comfort of knowing they're doing the best for their pet. They're buying confidence, buying a little extra joy every time they see their pet happy and healthy. Emotions are what turn a product into something meaningful and memorable. So, as you shape your marketing messages, think about what you want your customer to feel every time they reach for your product. If you can tap into that feeling, then the message becomes more than just about conveying facts, which are important, but it fosters that sense of personal connection. And when they have that connection with you and your brand, they will come back and buy it again. And that's the goal, right? All right. So here are some ways that you can align emotions with benefits. If you know your pet is protective, the benefit is safety, but you feel reassured. If the benefit is reliability, your customer might feel confident. So think about this as you're developing your messages. Let me give you some examples. You can be warm and fuzzy about it. More cuddles, less hassle. You just spell it right out. Their safety is your peace of mind. Like you don't have you just use the words. You don't have to get too esoteric with your messaging, to connect with people. Crafted with love, served with trust. Trusted by pet parents, adored by pets. And simply feel good about what you give your pet. So what I would say here is good messaging for any product is a mixture of features and benefits and emotions, emotional messaging. I think any good product is going to have all of those things because you need to be able to communicate what the product is, what it does, but it's that emotional connection that's going to that'll put you over the top. All right. So let us take a final review of some of the things that we've learned here, and then we're done. All right. Let's see. For the review, here are the best ways to avoid that letter from the FDA. Definitely don't do any of these things. If you're breaking the rules for human products, that's a problem. Please be careful with your health claims, especially for human products. Don't make products for children or have your marketing appealing to children. Oh, I can't read that other thing over there about health claims. I know that nobody's going to go out and make COVID-19 health claims right now, but you never know what's going to happen. If something else happens, don't make egregious health claims about whatever that thing is. Just be careful. Okay. Food producing animals, that's a touchy one. And definitely be careful once you're selling products out of state. That's when you have to be really careful. And I'll tell you, some of the big companies I have heard will turn you into the FDA just for fun. So just know that happens. I know a lawyer once who packaged up a whole bunch of evidence and mailed it from a place that was not near his home because he was afraid. Like he submitted a whole bunch of companies to the FDA. People do that, so just be aware. All right. And then safe messaging. It's really best if you can focus on those messages that are about features and benefits and emotions. Health claims, I've shown you how to make safer ones, so please try and stick to those. All right. If you need more help with this, whether it's with your compliance or your branding, I'm available for hire. So feel free to get in contact with me. I've got some package prices on my website, but I can work with you in whatever way you need. So just please get in touch. We'll make sure that you have my contact information.
We hope you enjoyed this Veterinary Cannabis Society podcast. Be sure to comment your thoughts below. If you have any questions about creating FDA-compliant marketing for your cannabis-based pet product, please visit the Veterinary Cannabis Society website or Jennifer Whetzel's website, Ladyjane Branding. You can see links to those websites in the description below. Have a great day.